This week we are continuing our trip up through the minor leagues. We've done the FCL, we've been to Bradenton, heading a little bit north up to Greensboro, bringing back broadcaster for your Greensboro Grasshoppers, Andy Durham. Andy, how you doing today, sir?
Craig, everything's going good so far. So far, so good.
Yeah, and it's been a good season for the Grasshoppers so far. Only sitting a game and actually a half a game back in the standings, right behind the Jersey Shore Blue Claws. What has led to the team's success so far this season? And I know that's a broad question.
Tell you what, it's a broad question. It's like a broad jump because yesterday the Hoppers, right now the Hoppers should be leading the division by 2.5 games, in my opinion. I mean, they had a good lead coming into this series and dropped 4 of the 6 games to Jersey Shore, got beat on Sunday 18-5. So kind of some loose wheels right now to get reestablished. But I mean, like I said, half came out of first place when the Winston-Salem Dash started on Tuesday. Still anybody's game in this Sally League North. So I just hope the Hoppers can hang in and still win that first half pennant. But if they had it in their hands and kind of let it slip away some this weekend, won the first 2 games, won the game back on Tuesday. Last Tuesday, won that game against Jersey Shore 5-4 in 10 innings. Then won the game on Wednesday 6-5. Then dropped the game on Friday night. Dropped that one 5-1. Lost Saturday 9-4. And then proceed to lose on Sunday 18-5. So won the first 2, dropped the next 4. So I think the Hoppers are playing because look at this. I mean, here we can say now hear this, so to speak, if you make a proclamation. I think the Hoppers still have the best record in Pirates system overall, organization overall. So, I mean, that bodes well for the guys right now. I'm happy about that part, but still should be in first place right now. No doubt about it. It should still be in first place.
Yeah, and that is definitely kind of frustrating. The one thing I can say, looking at it from afar, because, I mean, obviously watching as many games as I can, listening to as many games as I can, but still, like, not there. For at least the first part of the season, it kind of seemed like that the pitching was leading the way, and I think that people up here in Pittsburgh may have that perception, to a degree to this point. But I looked at the how the Hoppers look against the rest of the league right now, and this is the way I look at it, Andy. I know other people like it different, but I look at ERA and I look at WHIP. I look at the walks and hits per innings pitched because I feel as like if you're a pitcher and you're not putting people on, the chance of success is better. Right now, the Hoppers are 7th out of 12th in WHIP at a 1.370. It's right around league average. ERA is 8th, and that's at a 4.32, and that's still around league average. Right now, their OPS is second best in the league at 768, and they have a Sally leading 86 home runs, and that's
the
8.
Key right there. You just hit the nail on the head. 86 home runs so far this season for the Grasshoppers and 285 RBI. I mean, the home runs, I call these the Bash Boys. These have been the Bash Boys this season. They're not bashful. These guys have been knocking the ball in the ballpark. 86 home runs. You got 4 guys, 8 home runs each. So that's been the difference from my perspective. I talked to Blake Butler early in the season. I said, Blake, this team is not hitting well for average, but this is a hard-hitting team, and they have done that all season long.
Yeah, and the thing that I keep on looking at is that, some guys are coming around a little bit slower than normal. Some guys may be having their early season struggles. Usually in baseball.
Can we cut to the chase and give you the guy right now? Can we give you the guy?
Give me the guy.
The guy is the man who's gone to work. They say he is not through, but he's still doing it. Charles McAdoo. Charles McAdoo so far this season for the Grasshoppers, his average is 332, 8 homers, 39 runs driven in. He's second in the league in hitting and 4th in the league in RBI, and this guy has been the biggest surprise in this team without a doubt. He's a big dude, too, about 6'4", 6'3", weighs about 225, 230, plays third base, got good, very athletic, but this has been a man so far.
Yeah, and like I said, it was cutting to the chase because my next question is the players that have impressed, and Charles is somebody that, has gotten on, Pirates fans' radar, also gotten on, national radar. I believe he slipped into the top 30 prospects on MLB Pipeline. When he was drafted out of San Jose State, I think he was maybe seen as some because, everybody was looking at the other guys that were drafted last year. You know, Mitch Jebb, who is on your team as well, drafted ahead of him out of Michigan State, a much bigger program. And then the other thing is, as Pirates fans, we're so used to, I mean, other than O'Neal Cruz at 6'7", we're used to these players that are being talked about being on the smaller side of things, and I don't think people realize like how big Charles actually is.
He is a big fella. I like him at third base. Does a very good job there. He did knock down that ball that Justin Crawford smashed to him yesterday, and Crawford got all the pub after the game. He's been all over. I think MILB today, Justin Crawford had a big game for Jersey Shore yesterday. But back to McAdoo, it's fun to watch him in right field. They hit a ball to right field. His arm coming back in. It's like an infielder's arm from the outfield. That is fun to watch him make a throw back to the infield from right field.
And that's that's a good thing to hear because the outfielders up in Pittsburgh have been struggling a little bit, and if he can play multiple positions, I mean, as I talk about on this show a lot, it is something that Ben Cherington and John Baker both kind of like have an emphasis on as a player that has versatility, can move up quicker throughout the system, but. Other than Charles, who are some other guys that have been impressing? I knew that you wanted to see Nick Samillo back down there, and he has been playing well.
He's doing good. Let me tell you this, Nick has done well because you look at Nick's numbers. He's played in 27 games and driven in 26 runs in 27 games among the players tied for lead in home runs at 8. So Nick is he's produced. He's produced for the games played. He has produced.
And then on the mound, who are some guys that you've been looking at? Because like I said, in the beginning of the year, the pitching was really strong, and there still have been some strong performances. But if you had to pick out like a couple guys to talk about, I mean, I know that's hard, but just pick out maybe a couple that have been impressing on the mound.
I tell you, it's not hard at all. I'll give you two right quick because the first two come to mind. I'm with these guys. I'll take these guys and say they've done the best from my personal perspective, watching them play and pitch so far this season. That would be Patrick Riley, number 1, Hunter Barco, number 2.
Yeah, and that's a pretty easy one. With Hunter Barco, I mean, a guy that has first-round pedigree, was coming off an injury when the Pirates drafted him. And Patrick Riley, a guy that I actually got to see in person down at the spring training, the breakout game. It's kind of, he was like below on the radar there, but and you've also got some big guys in the bullpen as well.
Yeah, those two guys in the bullpen. I haven't seen a whole lot lately of some of those guys like Nielsen in the bullpen. Cy Nielsen's very strong in the bullpen. Luis Peralta's been tough at the bullpen. Some other guys that got banged up. This guy, Elijah Birdsong, has been kind of a fairly pleasant surprise in the bullpen, too. But always, I think you got to go with Cy Nielsen first, based on what he's done the past couple of years, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, and we talk about there were certain people that obviously, Andy, that people had an eye on from here in Pittsburgh, and probably the name at the top of that list is.
You're going to give me two names, and I'm going to be right there with you. Go ahead and give them to me. I know those two names you're thinking about. Those two guys at the top of that list, and people are watching for them. Shoot them out there. Shoot them.
I'm thinking about Tamar Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking about Mitch Jebb. And one of them is kind of turning the tides around a little bit, and another one's still struggling a little bit.
Well, I'm thinking about those two. I'm thinking about Jack Brannigan and Tamar Johnson. Those two guys are the ones that were projected coming in, should be moving up before anybody else on this team. And Tamar's turning around some right now. He's done better as of late. The thing I like about him, let me just give you cut to the chase on him, and it may not fit on other people's radar or perspectives. What I like about Tamar Johnson, 45 walks, 52 strikeouts. He's only 7 walks behind his strikeouts. He's close in walks and strikeouts, which is very good. He's been patient to plate. He's been consistent. He's scored 34 runs this season. I like what the guy's only hitting right now, 213, Johnson, but gosh, his consistency at the plate, I mean, every time he comes up, he's a threat to get on.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jack Brannigan as well, and that's another guy, like we were saying, I think when we talked last time, it was like we were surprised that there were certain guys that were still in Greensboro. Jack was one of those. Jack is having an up and down season, but I know his defense is always going to be there, but the bat just is maybe a little bit, I wouldn't say behind it, but I feel like it might always be behind the defense because it's so stellar. But what are you seeing from Jack right now?
Jack has got 7 homers and 21 driven in, so the power numbers are okay. The average of 217. Jack's playing in multiple different positions. You mentioned up and down. Let me go ahead and put that in the same vernacular. You brought it up. You touched on it well. He's been up and down because he got injured, missed a couple of games with a hand injury early in the season. Then he got injured this last homestand. I think the first game of the homestand, he tweaked some kind of muscle in his leg, running between first and second on a takeoff, and had to leave the game and has missed probably about the past 4 or 5 games. So he's going to miss the entire week because of that. So I think those have been hindrances to Jack, too. He can't get that full level of consistency going like he wants to right now. He's been batting leadoff a lot, so getting a lot of at-bats. But again, he's been out of the lineup with those injuries a couple of times.
Yeah, and I think that's something I'm glad that you touched on that some Pirates fans are missing because, I mean, as you know, with, covering the minor leagues and stuff, a lot of, Pirates fans and even some people that do watch the minor leagues are more like, fly in, fly out type of things. And when they don't see a guy for a while or they don't hear his name for a while,
I think he's had lack of success and they've sat him down, but that's not the case. He's been injured, right?
Yeah. So they kind of look at that type of stuff. And you're talking about like different promotions and stuff. I mean, you've already seen, Sammy Ciani get off to a hot start, get up to Altoona. I know Drake Fellows made a quick stop in there as well. But
Fernando Chapman also moved up, and Jacob Dees was up. He's down back down. So it's been some other guys moving around a little bit too.
Yeah, and so like if you had to pick, are there any guys that you could see like that may get the next promotion, or I don't want you to like look too far into your crystal ball or put too much on you, but just some guys that maybe are like kind of pushing towards Altoona.
Well, Sammy moved up, Sammy Ciani, and I thought it was about time for him because he's in his 3rd year with the Grasshoppers this season. Then he got called up. I think if they're going to give him any shot at all, Hudson Head should get a shot sometime. He's got 7 homers, 24 driven in, average of 223. But the thing about it is the time he is put into the system, if he's going to make it further up, they need to go ahead and pull him up and see what he can do at the next level, I think.
Yeah, and that's like kind of the thing is like sometimes we talk about promotions and different stuff, and there's promotions that are earned, and there's promotions that exist to try to figure out what type of player you have because like you said, they've been in the system for so long that you need to actually find out what you have with them. And going up to Altoona, I just in my opinion, like I said, I'm not the expert here, but I think probably the second hardest jump in professional baseball is that jump from high A to double A, especially on the hitting end, because you're facing pitchers who at times can locate pitches better, have a better pitch mix, different stuff like that. With a pitcher, if your stuff plays, usually it will play up a level as well if you're really on a heater. But the other thing that I'm thinking of is that, are there any guys that you think that might be, kind of working themselves maybe on the cusp of a breakout at this point in time in the season where, we may be looking for some more for them moving forward in the season?
Well, you look toward the end of the first half. It used to be kind of a point to look at in the season too. Some guys get called up after the first half. So if Johnson stays with us on past in the first half, he may be like a late season call up, just going to get him up there, get him warmed up, get him ready for next year. So he's still the guy to watch for. And Jack Brannigan's got to get completely healthy first. It all becomes too sometimes, like you just mentioned, the different reasons they get called up. Sometimes it becomes a need of necessity too. A certain position, maybe a guy's injured, you got to pull a guy to fill in that spot. So I think there's several guys that could fill in if they were called up right now. I think I don't know about the situation with Charles Mackett, if he's going to be called up. Just keep him here all season long and study him and see if he can keep the production level up the entire year, see what he does there. There's a few other guys that may get called up. I mean, Michael Escoto, he came in to pitch yesterday. Second time he's come in from the bullpen, so to speak, from the bench, really, to pitch this season to help out. He's been around for a while. He's done pretty well for the team. He may become a good coach someday, though. You may watch for Michael Escoto to be a coach one day, possibly. And it's just been a crazy season. You got the new kid, P.J. Hilson, who had to come in to pitch on Saturday evening because they ran out of pitchers. So it has been one of those things right now. It's anybody's guess. Like the guy like Emmanuel Chapman, I would never expected him to be called up, and I guess he's still up there. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and that's what thing that happens like throughout the minor leagues is like you're talking about is it's also performance. It's trying to figure out what you have with a player. It's organizational need. And you mentioned the pitching thing, and this is something I think I forget who I talked to about it at the beginning of the season. I know it wasn't you, Andy, but I feel like you guys are kind of like all on the same wavelength as the broadcasters within the minor leagues. Is at times with the changes they've made to the domestic reserve list, not having as many players on it, different things like that is. I heard from the beginning that, pitching and pitching depth and having enough pitchers, we see a lot more, I feel like, bullpen games that I've seen in the minor leagues more often just because of the schedules now. I mean, you've got that, which is nice at times because you get this Monday off to, at least from the Hoppers, because I know you're busy with other stuff, but get the Monday off to, get stuff going and everything. But you got, 6 days on, 1 day off, and you don't get like sometimes those normal rest days that happens for like a major league ball club. But the amount of pitchers that are going to be needed to pitch for the entire season, I mean, to me, it's kind of crazy.
Tell you one thing, I want to go back to that question you just asked. I think I've got the answer for you. If I'm wrong, go ahead and don't point a gun in my head, point maybe a slingshot at my head if I get this wrong. The next guy to move up will be Joshua Palacios. Palacios moves up next, Palacios. Palacios goes up next, Palacios.
Okay, yeah, I definitely, with him.
It's got to be him. Got to be him because he was at Braves in 5 games. He was here this past week, kind of playing in and out a little bit of lineup. He would start and maybe play 4 or 5 innings and sit down. Had a homer yesterday. He's got 2 homers with the team over the week. He's the next guy to move up, I think.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I mean, he's a guy that put a charge into the Pirates during a struggling season last year, but he was a good clutch hitter. Coming off the bench, I think in 2 games in a row, people will probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was he hit like 2 3-run home runs for the big league club off the bench, injured at times during this season and stuff. And to tell you the truth, Andy, you had to remind me that he was down there in Greensboro just because he kind of got lost in this season at times.
Hey, tell you what, Craig, I'm surprised he even came to Greensboro. Usually what happens, and no neglect direct on our part, we're not being directly neglected, but usually they go from Bradenton, they'll be there because of the Florida complex there, then they're going up to AA to maybe AAA, possibly sometimes AA and back to the majors. We usually sometimes get left out in that process. This time we were included, so he may be here just this past week. He may be moving up to AA maybe this coming week.
Yeah, and that's definitely a possibility. And the one thing I'm kind of thinking about here, and it's a player that I mentioned, and I definitely wanted to talk to you about was when they were drafted, McAdoo and Jeb were only given comparisons just because they were both college level players, and I feel like they play a different type of game and everything. But Jeb has not experienced the same success as McAdoo has. Is there anything you're seeing from him, like a change in his approach, a change in his swing? I know that he when he was drafted, everybody pointed out the funky swing that he had and stuff. Do you think he's like working through something? I mean, I know I'm kind of grasping at straws here, and it might not even be a question you can answer, but I mean, I know that you have eyes on him all the time, but people were looking to see like a 2nd-round pick out of a major college, and he's not performing to the level that maybe some expect of him.
Yeah, the thing about Jeb, too, Jonathan Prieto's the hitting coach. He's been working with these guys, trying to correct some things during the season. I think the thing that kind of gets in my mind a little bit is the fact that a guy like Jeb is playing at second, he's playing at short, then you got Brannigan at third, short, second. I mean, they're moving the guys, but I think sometimes defensively, you're moving around so much, and the attack defensively, how you play the ball on defense, sometimes gets in your head when you kind of play on offense. I think you put extra pressure on yourself where you're thinking, gosh, I got to make that play on defense. And some of the plays, the Hoppers had 4 errors in the game yesterday, so that's got to work in your head, too, as you come to the plate, I think. That's just my opinion. I think these guys, they're trying to find exactly where they want to put them at. They're going to move them all around at infield. I mean, Escoto was at third base. He's been at second base. He played first base. I mean, they've moved these guys all around at infield. There's nobody like, I mean, McAdoo's in third base, right field. Nobody's got a position locked in. They're really, this is developmental baseball at its finest level right now.
Yeah, and like I said, I keep on like the versatility and different stuff like that. But you do mention that, if a guy knows where he's at in the lineup, he knows where he's at in the field. At times that can kind of like get you settled down and do whatever. And the other thing that I just also think of is that, we see players, and this is something I talk about a lot too, is we see players, reach the major leagues at, God, like 19, 20 at this point in time, sometimes 21, 22. And we expect all of those players to have that massive ascent and that quick ascent. But I mean, for some guys, it takes, years to figure out. I mean, my favorite player on the Pirates now, everybody knows who it is, and it's Connor Joe. I mean, goodness, it's taken him till he was, 28, 29, 30 to find a regular spot on a ball club. So I just hoping that, some of these guys in the second half of the season can get this stuff turned around.
Well, it's kind of like a guy like Henry Davis. Henry Davis is coming out of Louisville, comes to the Grasshoppers. That one season a couple years ago, stayed here for about a month, and moving up real quick to the major league level. And as he's moving up, all of a sudden, Indy Rodriguez comes along. Now he's got competition. Am I going to be the catcher? Where are they going to put me at? They put him in the outfield. So you think going up, I'm going to be locked at that one spot. I've got this locked down for the next 10, 15 years. And they start moving you around. Sometimes it's not the correct story you're looking for.
Yeah, and it's definitely an adventure. Everybody knows, within the minor leagues and different stuff. But Andy, I appreciate you jumping on here again. I'm looking at myself right now, and I got about a little over a month and a half until I'm down in Greensboro for the first time. Getting extremely excited about that. Getting extremely excited. Going to check out the West Virginia Black Bears, the MLB Draft League this Sunday for Father's Day. Thank God my wife is a very patient person. She's going to sit out in 90-degree weather to let me watch an MLB draft team. Going to be out in Detroit the weekend after that. I mean, as everybody knows, everything's about baseball. But Andy, I always like talking to you, sir, and I can't wait until we do it again.
I'll tell you what, before we leave, let me give you one more point, because last time we talked, I tried to keep this in my memory bank from last time's conversation until now. One thing we didn't bring up last time, you asked about the black Labrador retrievers, the dogs that are so active. Willie Mae Mays is the one dog they're they're bringing in. She allows them to get some of her time for the Hoppers again this season too. Donna Moore, the former general manager, brings her back several nights. Anyway, the dog we didn't talk as much about last time, that one dog, Miss Babe Ruth, was the first dog who retrieved the bats and brought the bucket of the balls to the umpires. Anyway, I forgot to mention last time that Miss Babe Ruth's bucket that she had the baseballs in to bring to the umpires, that bucket is in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York.
Oh, that's an awesome story, man. Yeah, I was there was a what game was it? I was just watching, and people are going to be like, "Oh, this is great! This is great listening." But there was a broken bat in a baseball game recently, and another team has a bat, and the bat dog got confused and didn't know like to bring the bat handle back or bring the bat. And I was thinking about the Hoppers the entire time.
Yeah, and I miss Babe Ruth. I don't know of any other dogs that are in the Hall of Fame, but that dog definitely has something in the Hall of Fame up there.
That's very cool. That's very cool, Andy. And like I said, man, can't wait to talk to you again and see you in person. Hopefully, when I'm down there.
Yeah, I hope you come in. I hope we have a chance to make a few long gone calls with you. That long gone call, like we talked about last year with Jackson Lynn, that 3-homer day. I think that's video is still flying around a little bit, and had a little bit of long gone yesterday for Palacios. He hit the big one yesterday. Palacios, he got a home run yesterday, so. The long gone has been active this season with 86 home runs, a lot of those at home at First National Bank Field, and just hoping we'll see some more.
Yeah, I love that, Andy. If you ever see me out and about in Pittsburgh, you will always recognize me, and not just because of the white beard, but also because of the Y that is always on top of my head, the hat I always wear. The Yins brand, proud partners with Bucs in the Basement. 3 dynasties, 1 brand, Yins. Finally, 1 brand to rep all black and gold. Follow @ShopYins
for new merch drops and giveaways. Order online at www.shopyins, the emphasis on the two Z's, high quality comfort, lightweight materials, a new modern look for the black and gold, made for Yins by a Yinzer. This week on the Pirates' top 5 prospect performers, we got a repeat, as you know, in no particular order, but have to get number 1 out of the way. Was announced on Sunday that he is being promoted from the Altoona Curve to the AAA Indianapolis Indians, already on the 40-man. Braxton Ashcraft, somebody that people had talked about or speculated or just really wanted him to be given a spot start on Saturday when the Pirates did their bullpen game. We're seeing the Chicago White Sox doing it this week with a Double-A pitcher in Drew Thorpe, so it wouldn't be out of the question. On the season, Braxton Ashcraft has a 3.69 ERA. Even better, he has a 1.009 whip, 10.6 Ks per 9. Also, more importantly, the 1.3 walks per 9 in his last start. Went 7 innings, got 12 Ks, did not walk anybody. But the one thing that didn't really get mentioned, and I want to play both sides of the coin here, very dominant performance, but also gave up 6 hits and 4 earned runs. Another thing I keep on looking at with him, basically first full season back from a Tommy John surgery. Last year, 52 2/3 innings. This year, so far, 53 2/3 innings, something that's going to be monitored. I had seen stuff out there and even pondered, even in my head at times, is the possibility of him being a possible spot starter, or even a long relief, a bullpen arm to kind of limit the innings. But then also you're kind of looking at guys, if they are going to pitch in a bullpen setting, a couple innings here and there, you may see the miles per hour ramped up. So how much, does that do to the arm, the elbow, the shoulder, and everything as well, the preparation? So just something to monitor with Braxton Ashcraft. Number 2, down in Bradenton, Carlson Reed, 4th rounder out of West Virginia University. Oh man, the West Virginia baseball team broke my heart a little bit this past weekend. Took a lead into the 9th inning on Friday night. Couldn't hold on to that. Lost a tough one to North Carolina. 2-1 on Saturday. Is out of the College World Series at the Super Regional. Great season for West Virginia. He has pitched 44 2/3 innings, a 2.22 ERA, whip a little bit higher than I would like to see it at 1.231. During his last start, 5 innings pitched, 9 Ks, 1 walk, only 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 87 pitches. This is something that I talk about a lot, even on the Bucs in the Basement podcast, is that when you see the strikeout rates go up, a lot of the times you see the pitch count rates go up. But Carlson Reed has by far his best start of the season for the Bradenton Marauders. Going down to the FCL for these next two at number 3 and 4. Number 3, your Donnie De Los Santos has just eclipsed 100 plate appearances at 106, slashing 351, 419, 500 with 2 home runs, 9 extra base hits, and 15 steals. Last year when we saw him go up to Bradenton, saw him struggle a decent amount, back down in the FCL. So basically, maybe a guy that is a little bit playing below his level, but is performing how you would like to see him. Another guy down in the FCL, acquired from the Brewers last year for Carlos Santana, Johnny Severino, also up over 100 plate appearances, barely at 101, slashing 298, 396, 607, 6 home runs, 13 extra base hits, and 8 steals. Number 5, and this is more for something that's been talked about a decent amount. Even on X this past weekend, I got into just a quiet little conversation about Termarr Johnson. Termarr Johnson had a very slow start to the season, especially average and power-wise. The on-base percentage has always been there. As our guest, Andy Durham, has said, basically the number of walks almost as much as the number of strikeouts. But over his last 100 plate appearances has seen the average come up a little bit, 268. The on-base percentage still strong at 390. The power is what's really coming around, the slugging of 512. During those 100 plate appearances, 4 home runs, 8 doubles, 21 Ks, 16 walks. Hopefully this is the turning point in Termarr Johnson's season. Still a very young man, still somebody who's playing at what could be seen as playing above a level. A lot of people wanted to see him start in Altoona this year. Talked about it on an early broadcast during this season. Talked about the runways and the landing spots for players, giving Termarr Johnson the opportunity to have that runway, to find his success, and then hopefully bump up to Altoona at some point this season. But that's the top 5 Pirates prospects for this week.
A pitcher of beer, a pitcher of beer. Let's order another pitcher of beer. That pitcher of beer should come over here. I love that pitcher of beer.
I know this is called Minor League News and Brews, but just for this week, it is going to be Minor League News and a singular brew, because I had the opportunity to have an experience that I wasn't really sure I was ever really going to get to have. I got all dressed up, all fancied up, which might have to share a picture of that out on the socials, because not something I do very often. Had to go get a suit dry cleaned because I didn't even have a clean suit lying around. Got to go to a wedding at the Oakmont Country Club. Was an absolutely amazing experience, not only for the happy couple, congratulations to them, a great wedding as far as food, as far as atmosphere, the dancing, the speeches and everything, but just the experience of being at the Oakmont Country Club. And I did not know this, obviously, because I've never been there before, but the Oakmont Country Club has its own beer, and it is brewed by East End Brewing Company. The name of the beer is 1903. It is an American wheat ale coming in at 4.5%. Had myself a couple of these after starting the day at cocktail hour with an old-fashioned. I'm going to give this one a 4.25, and just for one time only, I am going to give the weighted based on batting average, and this is going to go up based on experience, based on atmosphere. I'm giving this one the 500. Don't know if and when I will ever be allowed back in the Oakmont Country Club, not for something that I did, but maybe because of things I don't do. Number one, golf. No one wants to see that happen, but 1903 from East End Brewing at the Oakmont Country Club. Until next time, let's go Indians, let's go Curve, let's go Hoppers, let's go Marauders, and let's go FCL and DSL Pirates.